Hello, my name is Ariel, like the mermaid, and in this video I'm going to talk about something I've been seeing on Facebook a lot, and it's these links to these quizzes that supposedly tell you what gender your brain is. And I'm going to talk about why I find this very problematic. First of all, I haven't really tried any of these quizzes. I have probably taken quizzes like them like a few years ago when I was really questioning my gender identity, but I have not taken any of these quizzes. But from what I think, like I've heard, and what I would assume is that I'm assuming that it's all based on just gender stereotypes. Some probably has questions like, are you into sports? Or do you wear dresses? Do you put on makeup? Things like that. And the thing is, things like that, things that you can ask on a quiz like that, are not going to be things that are going to determine your gender. Your gender is not determined by what your preferences are in terms of like TV shows or your preferences in music. It doesn't matter if you like to play sports or if you like to do theater or whatever. None of those things have to do with what your gender identity is. It doesn't matter how you dress. You can dress like me and wear lots of makeup and wear dresses and whatever, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're female or that you're gender queer. You could be a male and you could dress like that. What your gender depends on how you identify, what identity you feel comfortable with. And now I think that most people who are posting those, I'm assuming, because they're like, most of them are my Facebook friends, I think that most people recognize that that kind of a quiz is, I'm sure that most people don't take it seriously, and I hope that most people don't take that kind of a quiz seriously. But regardless, I still think that it's problematic because, one, it enforces gender stereotypes. If it's, based on things like, do you like sports, or do you like, makeup, or whatever, things like that, that's not, that's just enforcing, that's suggesting the idea that, men are into sports and that females are into this and, etc. And that's not a thing that's not just problematic for transgender people like myself, but it's also just problematic for all people. For cisgender men and cisgender women, as well as trans women and trans men, and non-binary transgender people like myself. But it's particularly damaging, I think, potentially to someone who's, to a trans person who's maybe still questioning, like I was many years ago, not that many years ago, but, I think people who are questioning their gender identity might turn to things like that. I remember when I was still questioning my gender identity, I took quizzes probably like that because, it's hard when you're uncertain about your gender, and you want to find something that'll just say, oh, you're male, you're female, you're whatever, you're somewhere in between. It might feel comforting, but the important thing is that those kind of quizzes aren't going to give you real answers to what your gender is. You have to find that out yourself. But furthermore, I feel like I've seen a few people who posted it were actually trans people, who posted their results on that quiz. A few of my friends that are trans did that. And I think that it's a problematic thing. I don't know if, like, a lot of them maybe did it just for fun too, but the thing is, those quizzes are problematic in that sense too, because I think that a lot of times a trans person, I understand why a trans person might take a quiz like that, because as a trans person, a lot of times you don't get an affirmation of your gender. A lot of times people don't, there aren't people in your life, or at least not enough people, that respect your gender identity and show you that they see you as that gender. And so, it can be nice to have something that, like, even if it's just like a silly little quiz telling you that, no, you are this gender or whatever. But, again, I think it's not worth taking quizzes like that and posting it on Facebook when it affirms gender stereotypes, and it's just really not a healthy, it doesn't encourage healthy mentalities. And I mean, it's just a very silly way to think of things, that you have to be just this percent female and this percent male. Like, you know, everything is just about those two extremes in terms of gender, in terms of fucking everything. I mean, you know, I think it's very, I think that, again, I understand that a lot of people maybe just posting it as a joke, or maybe just doing it just for fun, but I think with things like that, that use gender stereotypes and, you know, create a false sense of what gender identity is, I think people should be more mindful of what they're posting and how that can affect others and how it's affecting themselves. But to anyone who is questioning their gender identity, or is, you know, is struggling because people don't respect their gender identity, what I have to say is, I mean, I think if you're uncertain about your gender identity, there are a few questions you can ask yourself. One, like, you know, when people refer to you as like a man, or if someone refers to you as a woman, how does that make you feel? When people use certain pronouns, like when people use like he pronouns to refer to you, or when people use female pronouns, she pronouns to refer to you, how does that make you feel? How do you feel comfortable with that? That's one thing. You know, how do you feel if you think of yourself as a man? How do you feel if you think of yourself as a woman? How do you feel if you think of yourself as something different? You know, I think those kind of questions might give you a more idea of what gender you might, you know, might make you feel most comfortable. And, I mean, don't listen to silly little quizzes saying, you know, asking you, oh, do you like to play sports? Ooh, do you like to do theater? Do you like to do this? Do you like to sing? Do you like to, you know, I mean, things like that. Don't listen to a silly quiz like that. You know, none of that. How you dress, you know, do you like to wear pants? You know, it doesn't matter in terms of who you are, what your gender is. That was probably a pretty long rant, but I just, it was something I felt like I needed to speak out on. So just be mindful of what the things you're posting like that, you know, and what messages they're sending out to not just trans people, but just people in general and their attitudes, particularly gender.